Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're Team 3. I'm Josh Beams.
I am Sadie Conrad.
I'm Jason Constantoris.
And I'm Hannah Stewart.
And we're here to talk to you today about our e-waste recycling rollout strategy. This one's dead. So today we're going to take a look at the vision and mission. We're going to review our business, review the business model that we've come up with for you, the target markets, go-to-market strategy, the challenges and risks, and then we're going to have a Q&A. So our vision is for your organization to be the national trusted leader in e-waste recycling, and our mission is to provide free and easy system for customers' e-waste needs, strengthen cross-industry partnerships through nationally integrated recycling system, and generate revenue and align with sustainability goals.
Okay, and so just to review quickly the process that we discussed in our first meeting, there's going to be, for consumers to engage in this e-waste recycling process, there's 3 ways to do so. So the first option is to drop off their electronics or unused unlined electronic devices in the mail. In order to do that, they'll be provided with a reusable box or envelope, depending on the device, and they can request that through the smartphone application or the website itself, or in-store if they choose to do so. The second way is to just drop off the unused electronic device in our retail locations. So there's thousands of those across the country, and just set up a drop box there. And the third option would be to drop off the electronic device in the retail partnership site that we will create. So from there, the devices will be taken to a regional sorting center, where you're already processing mail and just sorting from there and then being transferred to the recycling center itself. And just to quickly recap, there will be a reporting function that will take place in the regional sorting center. So just looking at what devices are coming in, how many, and then that information will later be brought back to the manufacturers, and Sadie will expound on that later.
So your agency has a national footprint, and so we think that rollout can be implemented at a national level relatively cheaply, quickly, and easily. Now just to recap, we had projected sales for different electronic devices for the next 5 years. And just to recap, that forecast suggested that the increase in sales in cell phones would be much larger than the sales in desktops and laptops. We had projected that market share would be 5% for desktops, 5% for laptops, and 3% for cell phones. And we think that's a really good projection for the first year. But we also think that you should look to increase market shares, or double market shares, for each of those devices within the next 5 years. We also think that you should expect to see, in the first couple of years, a lot of older devices. You might think of these as the clunkers that people have left in their homes or basements for a lot of years. But in the long run, we also expect that the market will be mostly newer devices with shorter lifespans and a much faster replacement rate. And so a long-term strategy is going to have to involve moving into that market. But initially, we think that you should focus more on the older devices first.
Okay, so with regard to the rollout map, there's going to be 4 quarters, or within 4 quarters we'd like to see this happen. So it's going to encompass various aspects: people, the process, the technology. So at first the focus is going to be in the first quarter on manufacturing. So that's going to mean creating the drop boxes, reusable boxes for people to mail in devices, and reusable envelopes. And then the other part of this will be the technology update. So we have the smartphone application, the website, those will need to be updated, as well the cataloging system to take place in the regional sorting facility. And the third part is the marketing strategy itself, so that's going to be working with the retail partners and creating the advertising in that phase. The second quarter, the goal would be to work on the distribution. That would mean the envelopes and boxes making their way to the facilities themselves and training the employees. And as we mentioned before, this isn't going to involve hiring new employees, but training the ones already on the mail routes, already in the sorting facilities. Second part of the second quarter is technology test run, making sure there's no bugs in the systems created. And third part, actually starting to implement the advertising campaign itself. Now, within the third quarter, that will be the nationwide rollout of the program to the public. And in the fourth quarter, it'll be the first round of monitoring and evaluation. And that ideally will be taking place every quarter. And as Josh mentioned, there's going to be some natural progression in the type of technology coming in, the amounts. And so it'll be good to monitor it through that process. And then along the way, building the partnership, this is kind of the underlying factor that Sadie will talk about again, partnerships with our electronic manufacturers.
So our marketing strategy for individual residents is to keep it easy and to keep it free. We know already that e-waste programs are underutilized because they're too cumbersome. People don't know where their products are going. You could say they're being recycled, but they could end up in a landfill in Africa somewhere. So we really want to be that peace of mind that people know when they give us their products, they know what's happening to it. And so we want to build a strong awareness campaign through informational flyers, promotional materials, to get into all of our retail stores that people know this program is happening. We also want to partner with our retailers so that they do some marketing on their own, that they are partnering with us in e-waste disposal. And we'd also love to see some commercials out there too, so people can start building awareness that they can get rid of the 7 computers they've had for the last 2 decades in their house, and they can bring it to our postal agencies. Now, our marketing strategy for our retailers is to really pinpoint national companies that are lagging behind the industry in e-waste disposal. So we identified both Walmart and Costco, but we'd like to partner with others as well. And we want to help them to catch up and to make their processes more efficient and to help them get e-waste from their stores to the recycling centers. So this is actually really good for them because it creates public awareness that their company is also going green, that they're partnering and supporting our organization, and it gets people in the doors when they're bringing their materials to them. And the responsibility for marketing is also going to fall with our retailers, but we want to make sure our logos are on all those bins so that people know when they're bringing their materials in, it's a joint partnership. And the last stage is a marketing campaign with our manufacturers. And this might be our most important piece for getting this program rolling. We want to make sure that BlackBerry and Apple and all these other electronic companies know that we're going to help them and we're here to aid them in meeting all these compliance regulations that are starting to go into effect, that are really cumbersome, that are going to be difficult for them to manage on their own. And so we want to negotiate contracts with them so we'll report to them the items that we're seeing coming through our centers, but we want to make sure it covers the basic costs for us as well to send all of that e-waste to the recycling centers. So this is really the most important piece at the beginning of the rollout. And for some of our challenges, as we mentioned, stakeholder support is key. This is really going to be important for growing the program. Also, because we are dependent on Congress, we want to make sure we have congressional approval. We actually think this program is going to be very successful. It generates revenue and it's green. I mean, you're not going to have anybody who doesn't want to support it as long as it maintains those 2 aspects of it. And also the biggest challenge is probably going to be legislation and having different legislation across state lines. As we become bigger in the market, we can actually help influence policy level decisions so that states start to get on the same page so it's not so difficult to navigate e-waste disposal.
And our 2 main takeaways are we want to facilitate you becoming the national trusted leader in e-waste recycling, and also to keep it free and keep it easy for the consumers, because the ease of use is what's going to end up making this program successful. And pending your questions, that concludes our presentation.
So I have a question. You seem to have focused exclusively on the recycling of these products. Why did, I guess, talk through your thinking of why kind of there's obviously a large market in refurbishing these products or reselling them. Why was that not included as part of your strategy?
Okay, so we wanted to be, because there's so much personal information on these devices, we wanted people to have the peace of mind that it's just going to be recycled. There's already a huge market out there, and we don't want to compete with the people that are refurbishing. If people have more expensive cell phones, they're not going to send them through us. We're really looking for more the less expensive and the outdated.
And part of it too was that's where the environment is moving. Legislation is going to asking manufacturers to actually send their old products to recycling. The public wants that. So even though there are refurbishing and other options, we don't want to confuse consumers and say, hey, give us your products. We can't guarantee where it's going to go. It might go to some of these services. Whereas if we can say it's going to be recycled, 100% of what we get is going to be recycled, that's a guarantee to the customers that they can trust what we're doing with their product. And then also, you do make money off of maybe the older devices, and as Jason was saying, as we grow in the market, you're going to start to see newer cell phones, newer computers too that are worth more as well.
So you talked about the need to ensure that, well, the trusted kind of relationship that you're going to build with the customer, so they know when they send something through the agency that it's going to be disposed of properly and that the vendors are on board. What kind of compliance regime would be needed to make sure that the vendors are actually disposing of recycling this in a sustainable way? I know in the interview that was kind of a key thing that the chief sustainability officer highlighted, is that we need to have strong vendor checks. So have you thought about that?
Go ahead.
So already the postal agency is divided up into regions, so we want to identify recycling regions in that area and actually do some checks on them themselves, whether they're certified through the EPA, and to have a standard list on our own before we enter into negotiations with them, but we want to develop contracts with those vendors.
Also, we did leave a portion for monitoring and evaluation in the process. A lot of that, I think, would happen in the monitoring and evaluation stage.
And we are actually going to be picking up and delivering from that retailer to the regional sorting center. So, I mean, that will give us a certain amount of oversight as well.
So I just have one question, and maybe I missed it, but I know I recall your slide around revenues and expected revenues over time, and I appreciate somewhat the strategy around focusing on the older products, which may be a little bit less, but to your point, maybe people are more willing to give those to us. But I'm concerned, from a profit perspective, that this really can't just be something that brings in revenue to the agency. This really has to be something that helps us close the gap that we're facing from the lack of revenue coming from our other products, frankly. So that's sort of one of the key things we really like about this option. So from a profitability perspective, I'm wondering, if you've considered the cost. I appreciate the approach you proposed with the quarterly approach. But certainly that's going to take away from whatever revenue we're able to generate. So at what point are we actually breaking even with this? And when can we actually expect to see the ability for us to get some profits that we can then maybe cover other parts of our agency's mission?
That's a great question. And basically, what we think the elegance of our idea is that it's not actually going to cost a lot of money to implement. We're going to be, we already have a lot of the infrastructure. We're not adding any employees. It's going to be the drop boxes and reusable envelopes and the boxes, the specially marked, and they're part of advertising as well. So what, and the cost of the shipping being covered by the manufacturers. So really our cost is the initial upfront cost, but after that it's going to be kind of a self-sustaining process.
And our initial revenue is pretty conservative. We didn't want to jump in and say, hey, we're going to get 40% of this market right away. We need to build some capacity and build some public awareness, but we expect this program to actually grow and to get a larger share of the market and to actually become more profitable. But to be totally honest, in the first couple of years, it's not going to be a huge cash cow for the organization, but it is going to generate revenue and be self-sustaining and grow more.
Thanks a lot for the presentation today, especially on a great fall Friday afternoon. We might be nearing the end of the Q&A period. So if you could could you roll back to the roadmap slide? I just want to make sure that we in the panel have a chance to digest that. I don't know that I have a question on it, but it would be good to. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So as part of the monitoring evaluation phase, will you work with us to establish key performance metrics?
Yes.
Yes, we'll see you through the entire process, and that's actually going to be, it's going to be very important in our last presentation, that we're adjusting fire accordingly throughout the quarters whenever we're taking a look at it. So.
Great. Well, thank you.
Thank you.